So I found this old footage of a Joker that I draw a couple years ago, and it gave me the idea to talk a little bit about this theme that I've been wanting to talk, which is the law of polarity. And the law of polarity, for those who don't know, it's actually one of the seven main laws of the universe, seven main principles of existence based on Hermetic philosophy. It's an esoteric and occult philosophy. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about that, especially because based on the last movie from the Joker, the transformation that the character goes through, it's a perfect example of the law of polarity in action. This law states that everything have a opposite side, and that these opposites, they're actually the same in nature. The only difference is that they differentiate on the degree. One is in the completely extreme opposite of the other one, but they are the same principle in essence. For example, we have hot and cold as extreme poles of the same essence, which is the temperature. We also have tall and short as the same essence of height. And the same even for emotional qualities. If someone is very angry, but then we have in the other opposite someone that is always very chill, very calm, never gets angry, although they are opposites, in essence they are the same. And this essence or nature of those two poles, it's the mood of the person. Besides that, the law of polarity also tells us that it's essential to keep an harmony between those two poles, because nothing can coexist without its opposite pole. So you cannot have darkness if you don't have light, and vice versa. You can't even have evil without good, or good without evil. In order for one to exist, you have to have the other one. So the law of polarity tells us that we have to keep neutral. We have to find a balance between those two poles, and we should never give priority just for the positive pole or just for the negative pole, because we're gonna create an unbalance inside of us, and eventually this unbalanced is gonna try to balance itself out. And that's exactly what happened with the character of the Joker in the movie, right? He is someone that is very giving, he is very passive, he doesn't like confrontations, he's very agreeable. So he have this quality of being a very peaceful and passive being. But this positive side that he has, it's too unbalanced with the negative. So he's too much for the positive. And what happens is that he have trouble to express that negative side and create a harmony and a balance between both, because that negative, it's also important. It was important that he will be more active, more aggressive, sometimes less agreeable in the movie, but he can't. So eventually all that negativity have to come out, and it's gonna come with a immense and disproportional intensity to try to balance itself throughout all those years that his positive pole was unbalanced. Does that make sense? In theory it's very simple, but in practice we really have to reflect, meditate on it, and try to understand the essence of the law. It's not complicated, but it's important that you understand what I've been trying to explain here. Let me give you another example that might make it easier to comprehend. Have you wondered why priests, they supposed to practice the celibacy and avoid marriage or any sexual act? They're supposed to be pure. And we see so many cases of priests that ended up committing sexual abuse, especially with children, and a lot of pedophiles. Why is that? Isn't that ironic that happens? I believe the reason is exactly the same as the example of the Joker. the act of restraining so much of that sexual energy and that act of celibacy, he ended up creating a unproportional balance. He created a disequilibrium in his sexual energy. And what happens is that eventually that sexual energy have to go somewhere. Eventually the law of polarity have to express itself and balance itself out. That energy that was putting so much effort for something positive ended up becoming something negative, because again, in essence and in nature, it is the same energy, which is sexual energy, sexual urges. So you can't really avoid, if you create an imbalance, eventually it's gonna have to balance itself out. And we see many other examples, like doctors that ended up becoming serial killers, cops that ended up becoming criminals. And those are all examples of positive energy becoming negative energy. And when I say positive, you have to understand that positive doesn't mean necessarily good, and negative doesn't mean always bad. It's just the quality of that pole that's going to be negative or positive. There is sometimes examples of a negative energy that becomes positive. My dad, he always was against cats. He was those guys that he didn't like pets. He hated cats. He would like be grumpy. He said that if you ever bring cats, he would just like throw in the trash. He was even mean sometimes with his words about cat. And my mom was always more chill and go with the flow, and she wouldn't mind. And what happened is that throughout the years, he kind of transmutes that negative pole to the positive, and now he actually likes much more than my mom, cares more for the cats even more than my mom. And I believe it's the same reasons, because he had that intensity, that emotion about loving or hating cats was there, even more present than in my mom, but it was just shift to the wrong side or to the negative side. There's no wrong or right. There is just the neutral. So I guess the lesson here is that if you're trying to change something about yourself or your emotional self, don't try to get rid of that thing, and instead understand that you have that essence really strong on you. So all you have to do is trying to shift that little by little inside of yourself. And the same goes for the positive. Sometimes too much calm, too much patience, too much even compassion, it might not be the best solution. Sometimes it's good to embrace your shadow and that negative side, as soon as you have a balance, and as soon as that's making good for your being. Just try to understand yourself and reflect on those things. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna put in the description maybe a couple books that I suggest to read about the topic, and I'll be talking about the other principles in future videos. Bye bye.